This is the Commonwealth Club of California. Find us on the internet at www.commonwealthclub.org. I'm Ann Clark, a member of the Commonwealth Club and chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Member-Led Forum. Our program tonight is City College of San Francisco, Engineering, Architecture, Technology, and the Environment, with Keith Mueller, Department Chair, Engineering, CCSF, and John Rizzo, Board of Trustees, CCSF. And now I'm happy to introduce you to John. He will be our first speaker, and let's give him a big round of applause.
So my talk is called Rebuilding a Campus for Climate Reality. And it has to do with not just one campus, but all our campuses. This is City College. This is a map of San Francisco, and we have these buildings all over the city. We're in Chinatown, we're at Fort Mason, we're at the airport, we're in the southeast, the Bayview area, and we're most known for our Ocean Campus site right in the middle of the map there. But this is just to give you a feel of what City College is. And we have a lot of buildings, and we have a lot of old buildings, some very old. Our oldest building is over 100 years old. Many of these buildings are past their useful lifetime, life expectancy, I should say, need earthquake retrofitting and need updating for classrooms, to modernize the classrooms. So what we are doing is putting a bond measure on the ballot for March. $845 million facilities bond measure on March 2020. The need from a pure facilities standpoint is there. We need to make sure our buildings are safe, equitable, sustainable, and efficient. We have failing infrastructure. We're constantly fixing, things are breaking down, roofs are leaking. Our buildings need seismic retrofitting. They're very old. And we need to upgrade our classrooms to better prepare students for the jobs that they want in science and technology and in other areas, in business, construction, and all kinds of things. But with a project list of this size, we have also the opportunity to really change the way our facilities are. We have an opportunity to make it green, to build our facilities in the reality of climate change, to make them climate resilient, and also to make them lessen the impact on climate change. So we're doing this by making our buildings more sustainable, mostly through energy efficient measures and using LEED standards. But we're also looking at water conservation and also redesigning the campus itself, the main campus itself, to encourage alternate transportation modes, to make it easier to get into campus, to make it easier to get in between the buildings. And we'll look at that in a minute. So what is sustainability in a bond project? So what we're doing is we're stating that all our buildings, our renovated buildings and our new buildings, will be LEED Silver minimum, but we are trying to attain higher LEED standards. LEED is the, if you don't know, is a national green building standard. It's the standard green building standard that is used across the country, and they're rated LEED, Silver, Gold, Platinum, and so we have a couple of LEED buildings already on campus from the last round of projects. but we're aiming higher here. We're looking at kind of the totality of our campus and how it operates as well. So reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is a key feature that we're looking at through lighting systems and energy efficient heating systems. We're also embedding the concept of sustainability in all of our documents that have to do with the college. The owner's project requirements, criteria documents, which were the documents we prepared to send out to contractors when they build them. Our design standards, our requests for proposals, our design build contracts. Those are the contracts for the actual architects and builders. They all have sustainability baked into them, or they will. We're also collaborating with Muni and BART to try to make to reduce emissions, to get people out of their cars, to make it easier for them to ride Muni and BART to City College. So we are also embedding sustainability not just in our construction documents and our construction plans, but in our college-wide plans. We have a facilities master plan where sustainability is a key directive. We have a sustainability plan that we're hoping to update. It's about 10 years old now, but we are looking towards a sustainability plan to guide us in this round. This is new, an integrated energy master plan where we studied all the buildings to look at how much energy they use and how we can use less energy. For the first time, we are creating design standards for City College. So design standards is something we haven't done before, but builders and architects will build our buildings according to these standards so that we can use the same standard parts in multiple buildings. So we don't have specialty parts, a specialty green window shade that automatically goes up and down. And we have those in Chinatown, but we want to use the same part in all the buildings. So that's the kind of thing we're developing right now. And even our education master plan, which is a required plan for colleges to do every year. In the last update, we included sustainability goals and sustainability measures. So we're trying to green the college through and through, from top to bottom. These are the planning principles of our facilities master plan, which is the plan. It's like a 10-year, it's more like a 15-year, 20-year plan for the Ocean campus. And you can see I'll read some of these off. Student-centered. There's a sense of community, consistent quality for every project. Dynamic hubs, building dynamic hubs for people to gather and for uses. Alternative transportation, optimized space, and then in here is sustainable and resilient. And this was not originally in our first draft of our facilities master plan, but some of us on the board thought that it should be, and that was the beginning. So this is the language of the actual from the facilities master plan, the actual sustainable and resilient design goal. And you can see it's to strive to achieve zero net energy use across the campus and to be resilient to climate change. So that is baked in. So in this next round of projects, we want all the projects to take this into consideration. To optimize energy performance, that's a number one. Thermal comfort, we want to use new technologies to cool and heat buildings that are more energy efficient, but we also want people to be comfortable. We don't want it to be too hot or too cold. So that is a key goal. Stormwater management, keeping water from gushing into the sewers when it rains, because when we have heavy rains, it overwhelms the sewer system and we get raw sewage getting dumped into the bay. This is what actually Donald Trump was talking about when he was criticizing San Francisco, but it actually does happen, and so stormwater management is an important feature for us. Efficient indoor lighting, goes without saying, LED lights and so forth. Daylight and views, using daylight in buildings, in our designs of new buildings as much as possible, windows oriented towards the south, that kind of thing. And building reuse, I'll come back to this later, but building reuse is really, you think of recycling bottles and cans and things and paper, but if you can recycle a building, there's actually quite a bit of carbon footprint that you're lowering. And use of recycled materials, using local materials and regional materials, so it doesn't have to be trucked in from far places, burning gasoline. And water conservation. So I'm not going to read these. This is just a list of what's going to be in the bond, some of the projects that are in the bond. But there's several new buildings and renovations of some of our oldest buildings. And they go from, it's across the board, a new child care center, classrooms for the arts, classrooms for the sciences, performance venue, and all over the city too. There's projects at Civic Center. There's projects in the southeast. But I'm going to talk mostly about the Ocean Campus here. So this is Ocean Campus, a map of Ocean Campus as it's envisioned. And I guess I'll go to this screen. We've identified some $1.2 billion worth of need, but we're going out for $845 million for the first hit. And so some of these projects are not in this first bond, but a lot of them are. So this in the middle here is Science Building, Science Hall, which was the first building. This is Cloud Hall, which I'll talk about. This is the new Diego Rivera Theater, and this is the new STEAM building, as we call it. This will be a child care center, and so forth. But one of the things we're doing is reorienting the pathways and the walkways. There's going to be an orientation that goes like this and like this to make it easier to connect the campus to the streets, Ocean Avenue here and back here, and Frida Kahlo Way, used to be Phelan Avenue, going this way. So that's really not seen in this picture here, but that is what we're doing. We're also building a new bicycle path along here. That project's actually going to start pretty soon, just to get people around easier. So other than the new buildings, this project includes some other upgrades to help us get into the 21st century. A new physical plant. That's the thing that generates heat for a lot of the buildings. That is constantly breaking down. It's probably 1950s technology, and we'll be updating that. We'll have electrical charging stations for electric cars. the new bike path I mentioned, and the reorientating pedestrian paths I mentioned. Now to get into, I'm not going to talk about every project, but just a few of them. This is the proposed Diego Rivera Theater. We have a current theater that houses the Diego Rivera mural, which is Pan-American Unity. It was created for the Pan-Pacific World's Fair, and City College has owned it for many decades. But it is in an inadequate building and is not quite earthquake safe. I fear for its safety, but it will be in this building when it is complete. This building will have 3 theaters of different sizes and different types. Oops, let me go back there. That will enable us to have new credentialed programs, things like lighting design, set design, and stage management that we just can't do right now because we don't have the facilities. And the interesting thing about this building is the heating and cooling. We have a set of geothermal wells dug into the area on that side of Frida Kahlo Way that currently heats one of our buildings, one of our newer buildings, the multi-use building. But we will also be using it to heat and cool the theater building and possibly this building, which is right next to it. The STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math. And it's right next to the arts building where we hope to create a synergy with the arts and the sciences, and hopefully some interdisciplinary action going on. But this building may also be able to use the geothermal wells, which are here. This is a map of this half of the campus. This is here we go, Frida Kahlo Way here. This is Ocean. And there are several hundred wells dug in here. And in the basement of the multi-use building, which is here, which currently exists, is the physical plant, which contains lots of pipes, but a big, what is it called? A heat pump, a giant heat pump that moves the air around. And currently, this building uses it, and our other buildings will as well. Okay, all right. Let me just wrap up here. So the greenest buildings you can have really are buildings that you don't tear down and put into waste areas, but buildings that you renovate. So these are 2 buildings that we're going to be renovating on the main campus. Science Hall, which is the first building at City College, 1937, needs seismic retrofit, needs needs new updated labs and whatnot. And Cloud Hall. Cloud Hall was built in 1954. Oops, there it is. And is considered our worst building from the people who work in it and take classes in it. Everyone will agree. So this is a rendering of the new revitalized proposed Cloud Hall with an area of seating away from the wind for a gathering space. New elevators to make it accessible. Looks like there's some solar panels here. But I'm excited as far as green building goes about this project because it takes an old building that was slated to be torn down and reuses it, and will make it a LEED certified building. And finally, Cloud Hall, we're working in partnership with LEED Lab, which is a group that works with students, and the way the program will they'll come in and our students will work on the LEED certification of the building itself. So the students, they get the credentials to be a LEED Green Associate, to train them to be LEED certifiers. And then the building gets to be a LEED building. So that's some of the things we're doing, and I'll turn it over to Ann.
This is Ann Clark, Chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Member-Led Forum. You are listening to the Commonwealth Club of California. Our program tonight is City College of San Francisco, Engineering, Architecture, Technology, and the Environment. Our speakers tonight are Keith Mueller, whom you'll hear from just now, and as soon as I give you the microphone. He's Department Chair of the Engineering Department at City College, and John Rizzo, who's the with the Board of Trustees at City College. So let's hear from Keith and all of the wonderful things he has to share with us. Thank you, John, for your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Keith Mueller. I'm the chair of the Engineering and Technology Department at City College of San Francisco. We're going to go from the global thing that John was talking about, how we're envisioning City College in the future, and I'm going to start getting down to some of the details. One thing that we have at City College for our students is we have a sustainability certificate, and actually we're very proud because we just have it now, a certificate of achievement. And this particular sustainability achievement certificate is shared between a number of departments. So I'm the chair of the engineering department. It's also shared with earth sciences and also biology upstairs. And it's really an interesting, very dynamic group that's all come together. And some of the handouts that we're passing out today is sort of illustrating all the different classes and all the different things that you could be taking for a sustainability certificate. And so that's one thing that I'm very proud of that we're trying to implement at the college. Sustainability is a very difficult subject in one sense. It's that if you already have pre-existing houses, certainly in San Francisco, it's hard to become sustainable once they're already there. And if you want to make a building sustainable, it's again hard to come from someplace that's already been built to something that's much more effective and much more environmentally friendly. So the Eco Center over at Heron's Head Park, and that's also a handout passing out, is a very sustainable building. It's a really good example of the best you can do. It is LEED Platinum. I think our MUB Center is LEED Gold, LEED Gold certified. And the difference is, and it's a very interesting difference, is that when you go to the Eco Center, I mean, the only connection it has with the city is that there's just water going into the center. Everything else is powered by solar power. Wastewater, it's split up into gray water, which spills out, which goes into the land that's around the Eco Center. Black water is then filtered through 3 different systems. Then it too goes around the Eco Center. It's really self-sufficient, and that's why it's basically platinum. And so you're trying to strive for that, and it's really good to illustrate for students, and I recommend going there. I illustrate to students, this is the best you can do. This is the best. And so it's important not just for our students, but I think for everybody in the city of San Francisco to understand, you can retrofit your house, you can make it cleaner, you can make it more environmentally friendly. Now again, from my point of view, I'm an engineer, I'm thinking a lot of alternative energy. I think we can put more solar panels on roofs. I think there's wind that we certainly have going through the college. We can harness that. But really with the environment, there's other things that are just as important, and that's water. Having water that's clean water that's going to your home or building is going to be really, really important and desirable. And we have to keep that updated. So when I was also researching what we're going to be talking about today in sustainability, I also wanted to think about, I think, city sustainability, not just our own homes here, but as a city. And I was thinking also this morning as I was in my office, is that we're kind of like an island here in San Francisco. There's 2 bridges, and we get all of our water that's coming in from the southern part. And in reality, we only own, if you read the PUC reports, only maybe about a third of it, because it also has to be distributed down to the peninsula and also down to San Jose. And so it's really kind of important that not just, again, from my point of view, from the energy standpoint, because I like solar panels, but we really need to be very concerned about water and the amount of water that we have to work with here and to live in the city. So that to that end, City College, we love training students. We love training people in sustainability and engineering and hands-on work. And I really would like to see more along the lines of students being involved with sustainability. And one part of the campus that's not part of our campus, but currently right now I think the idea is putting housing in there, is we still have a reservoir that's next to the campus. And again, I was looking into a little research onto this, and in the city, we really have 4 days of water if there was an earthquake happened, and we actually have no pumps running. I mean, that's all that we have, truly. And if you really take into account that the water that's supposedly goes to San Francisco also has to be distributed down the valley towards San Jose, really only it's almost like a day. That's really to us. So we really need to be very concerned about water, and especially if we have a reservoir nearby. And there was actually just recently, there was a civil suit brought on because simply the fire department was very worried, actually retired fire marshals. They were very worried that we do not have enough water in the emergency water system. Now I'm a San Franciscan. I grew up in the city, and I'm from Crocker, Amazon, south part of the town. And you probably need to start thinking about maybe we shouldn't be worried about an earthquake right now. Maybe we should be worried about more like a forest fire, because we're packed in here very, very densely, and it wouldn't take much for, if you have a wind going through the city, as we know winds right now, it wouldn't take much for a block to go up. And if you start looking at the amount of water that we have around the city down the southern part, there's not enough water at all, especially for the high pressure lines that the engines use for fighting fighting fires that are inside city blocks. So maybe it would be wise to not necessarily do homes in that one little section. Maybe it would be wiser to put in actually a reservoir in there, and actually have something where there is water that could be used. Now, I'm not against homes. I mean, if you really look at it, there's like 40,000 new units planned for the city. It's just that if you do the calculation at 42 gallons per household, that's another 8 million gallons that we need per day, which is about 11% increase. And if we are going to go up with 11% increase, it's going to be you got to be very careful here, because we could easily be making it very hard to live here, especially in our island after an earthquake happens. So those are the kind of things I want you to kind of think about. But at the same time, it's really important for all of our students at the college to be hands-on and to understand the sustainability of not just the microcosm of a small home, and you can do it in your house, right? But think of it as in a global scale, right? Think of it as much larger than just what we have in the city. And we can make all the buildings green. We can really do fantastic things with new buildings. But how will we retrofit old buildings? How will we keep everyone safe? Those are the kind of things I want you to think about. And so I think it probably concludes my section here. Thank you.
This is Ann Clark, Chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Member-Led Forum. You're listening to the Commonwealth Club of California. Our program tonight is City College of San Francisco, Engineering, Architecture, Technology, and the Environment, with Keith Mueller, Department Chair of Engineering, City College of San Francisco, John Rizzo, Board of Trustees, San Francisco, City College of San Francisco. And we're at that time for our audience questions, and I think we have a number of audience questions. Oh, great. We have some very interesting questions. So let's get to our questions, and if you have a special question you want to ask one of our people, that's fine, or both can respond, however you feel about it. So just raise your hand, and what we're going to do first is ask the questions. And then as we go on, let's see how many of us have some more questions. How's that? What is the status of the ecosystem at City College? Well, there are a lot of questions on this one. What is our connection to?
The Eco Center. The Eco Center.
Is that the Eco Center and Payne, is it? No.
Regan Park
Reckon Park
and the port.
and the port. So that's the first question. We'll ask both of you to have an answer to that.
I think currently what I'm understanding from, we used to teach classes out at the Heron's Head Park, at the Echo Center. And the problem was with gear and with the port. Because if you wanted to go out and teach, we wanted to bring in our equipment, but where to store it. They didn't want to store it for us. I think that's where it was going to be difficult. It was a difficulty in who controlled the space of it. That's why I do mention it, and I don't. It's a great place. It's just the problem is just bringing it out there. It would be nicer. Again, this is only my personal thing, but it would be nicer if. Again, that's far out. That's right off of what the India Basin is, really far out. If it was closer to the college, if it was part of the plan, if we could put it in Mueller Reservoir even, I mean, it would be nicer for the students to see right there. And also, I mean, if you're on Mount Davidson, you can look right down at it. You could see it. Here's a perfect echo center. Here's a beautiful building. This is what you should be trying to do. I mean, I would, again, want to illustrate that because it's very difficult to drive far out to someplace. So.
Another question, there is info on improvement for bikes and electric cars. What are our improvements for public transit? And for that one, John, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, we're not in control of public transit, but we have talked about the possibility of creating our own shuttle service. Other colleges, UCSF has a shuttle, so that's something we're talking about. We're also talking with Muni and Bart about what can be done. In the audience here is Trustee Thea Selby, who's been working with Muni to try to get a class pass for our students, and that's great work. And yeah, so I think there's some issues that the city could help us with. For instance, on Frida Kahlo Way, there are 4 traffic lights from end to end, 4 traffic lights. And if you're ever on a bus going through that, it takes a long time to go through those 4 traffic lights, just that one little stretch of road. So I think that's something that should be looked at maybe eliminating some of those lights as well.
I think I may just add is that not just necessarily create our own shuttle service, but we could share a shuttle service with UCSF.
Sure.
And that would be easy enough. They already have the buses.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just say, could we please use a bus if we need to transport somebody around? That would be easier.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, that would be easy.
We are thankful. We are thankful? We are thankful that CCSF are embedding requirements for sustainability throughout all bond projects. What can we do to help the community better understand how important these projects are?
Wow, that's a great question. I think you can just tell your friends how important these are. I mean, these are projects that even if they weren't, green, would be, needed, highly needed for our students and for the public safety. But the exciting part really is that they are green and they are going to be lowering our carbon footprint. So just talk to people and tell your friends, direct them. We'll at some point there'll be a website for for the campaign, which there isn't yet, but you can direct people to that as well.
Keith, did you want to comment?
No, I was just going to agree, really, exactly that. I mean, we're an education institution, so we constantly are telling people, our students, what it means to be green, and that's part of the instructional process, really.
Another question that we have from the audience is, how long will it be before the PAEC, is that what the initials we're using? PAC, which is the
Performing Arts Education Center.
Performing Arts Education Center building. So how long will it be before the Performing Arts Education Center building is built? So that's one of them. Let's start with that one.
Okay, well, that project is what I was calling the Diego Rivera Theater. It's been reconfigured, and so it got a new name. But that is actually the first building on the bucket list that will be built, and I think 2023, is that about 2023? Yeah, is when we expect an opening date for that.
Keith, did you
Well,
want to
it's been voted on. If you actually look at in history, I mean, we've had already started kicking it off, so it's been around for quite some time. It's just going to be very exciting to actually finish it. That's really something to look forward to.
I actually have a confession about that. I was at City College in 2004 when we started on what is now the Performing Arts Center building. And we are now in 2019.
Yes.
So even though I may be awfully slow, it does seem, and there were plans. There were a lot of plans, and they were good plans, and people supported it. So I want to get out of the problem of the fact that I didn't slow down, but somehow this has been going very slow for a very long time. And that's just my personal, and I'll tell the audience, that's just my personal opinion, since I was there and looking at all the wonderful things we had already done for a performing arts center. So let me go from the Performing Arts Center back to the Commonwealth Club. What is the proposal for the city to correct the inequities posed by districts 1, 4, 7, and 11? Let's start with that one. John?
Well, I really don't know. It's a question about what the city would do, because I don't follow really what the city does. If you're talking, yeah.
Is this talking about the water requirements?
That must be, because
Okay.
it goes on to say, having so few miles of HP,
High pressure.
high pressure, okay,
I see.
pipelines and
So
cisterns.
what's happened, and again I was reading into this, what happened is that after the 1906 earthquake, immediately after engineers and the planners of the city decided we were going to have a high pressure water system that was separate from the water supply, and that was going to be used for fires, because there's when you're going to put out a fire, you got to put a lot of water on it. And you do not want to have it at a very low pressure. You want to put a very high pressure supply on. So we have actually two separate systems inside the city. One's just for drinking water, and one's high pressure for putting out fires. But after the 1906 earthquake, this system was located just to the north of Twin Peaks, and the south part of the city, it wasn't developed. And so what many supervisors have realized, and this is also with the PUC as well, is that Sunset District and the southern part, Sunset and Sunnydale, and also Excelsior, and where I'm from, Crocker, Amazon, have no high pressure water systems. And so it's low pressure, and you cannot put out fires. It's not that you don't have enough pressure to do so. And in order to remedy that, you need to have more water down there and also more pressure. And so that sort of ties into what I sort of said before. Be very careful if you are thinking of putting houses in the one reservoir that's in the southern part of the city. that reservoir could be used as actually still an aquifer, and it now is closer to the end of the city. And if you use it as a high pressure system, then we can safely put out fires down. There's only one line that barely loops around, like I think around to the north of City College. That's about it, nothing else. So you gotta be very careful in the southern part. And supervisors realize this, the PUC realizes this, and so a lot of, I would say, firefighters, former marshals have been asking, why aren't we doing this? We should be spending really money on making sure that we're all safe. And that's going to be, you're going to hear more of it. And I am going to take that stand too, because I kind of want the entire city, as the island that we are, I want the whole city to be safe. And part of that sustainability is all of us together be safe equally. And so I think that was what that question means.
Does the proposal to take away the lower reservoir area used for parking pose a major threat to districts which apparently would need this area in the event of a devastating earthquake or fire? What are some solutions to this threat? And so we'll start with John.
Does the development, so the lower reservoir, as it's called, which is the western part of the City College parking lot, is owned by the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and they are planning to develop it and put housing there. And that process is going on now. So the question has to do with, does that, the fact that that's being developed, have anything impact our emergency, I guess, preparedness or something like that? I don't know. That's a good question. It wasn't. We did a safety study a few years ago that didn't mention that, but that was not really. I don't think. Inclusive to cover that kind of thing. So I don't know if it does or not. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking that it does, and I think
how would it affect
it just puts
emergency preparedness?
You're now looking at, we're in sort of a new era. I mean, you're going to say, hey, that reservoir has been there forever. Nobody ever filled it up. It's been there for a long time. PG&E has also been here forever. And suddenly we're now turning off the power. And now for the foreseeable future, we're now going to be turning off the power, turning off the power, turning off the power. And pumps need power in order to pump water. And if you don't have any water supply on hand, you're going to be at a risk. And if you're going to be pumping, water in there, it's going to be safe. We'll always be pumping water from Crystal Springs up into San Francisco. But hey, PG&E is turning off the power, which we thought would never happen. But now I think we're going to be seeing, I think we should pause for a bit and just take a look at this, because you're going to be starting to see that it's not going to be, if we just put a lot of housing, again, housing in parts of the city, that's fine. Just that's one spot is kind of necessary, I think, for a general survival and sustainable for all of us to be sustainable. So that's where I'm pausing it. I think we should, still think about this just a bit more. Because again, I never knew we were going to have these rolling blackouts, and nobody did. Nobody thought for the foreseeable future it's going to be like this. So.
Our next question is, how will the bonds be funded?
Well, there'll be general obligation bonds funded by property tax. Pretty standard topic, or pretty standard way of financing school facilities.
I would assume it's a very similar way.
Yeah,
Generally property tax.
The projects will take a long time to complete, so we're not, the taxpayers won't see this hit all in one year. It'll be spread out over, 10 or 15 years, something like that. The bonds will be sold as, as the projects are ready. So it'll be kind of like a rolling set of projects over a number of years.
Do you have any sense of how long this will take?
Yeah, I mean, the first phase is a 10-year plan, so it could take 10 years. It could take longer. Then there's a second phase, and hopefully both phases will take 15 years. That's, I think, what we're contemplating. But the first few buildings, within 5 years from now, within 4 years from now, we'll start to see facilities that we'll be able to use.
Yeah, it's a different system. I think we're doing I think it's probably coming from the state. There's more of a fast tracking system that's now in place. So things are moving along, because we're already having committee meetings about the STEAM building. And so you're already looking at classroom size, you're already looking at space, you're looking at where things are going to be located at. But then again, also other colleges already have the same type of room, so many architects will say, well, we already designed something this way, and there it is. So it can go a little faster. You're not designing something completely from scratch. So
they still require approval by the Department of the State Architecture, which can take a year to 18 months for each project. The schools are required to do that. Any building at a community college or a school or any college is actually has to be built to higher earthquake standards than most other buildings. And so it has this long approval process in the place. If there's an earthquake, the school buildings will be the ones that are standard. And if standing, I mean, and if people need shelter, the school buildings are where people will go. But it requires a pretty long process for approval.
How do you think the people of San Francisco are going to look at this probably long, drawn-out bonds that they are going to have to face? That's really a double thought. How about Keith? Can you think about that?
Well, it's difficult because you want to see progress, and that's the most difficult thing about any bond that you're going to be placing in front of the voters. You want to see that something's happening with it, and if you vote for a bond and you don't see it, or it suddenly disappears,
Or too much?
you're right. Then you're not sure. So that's the difficult thing. That's a difficult sell. Yeah.
Well, our poll shows that there's pretty strong support for this bond and for these projects. People are very interested in seeing our buildings become safe and seismically upgraded. They're interested in seeing better classrooms for students, 21st century classrooms to enable students to get trained in the current fields for for high-paying jobs. So I think enough of these projects will be rolling out over time that there will be enough for people to see. It's not like people will be waiting 10 years before they see anything. And I think they will see good results fairly quickly, within 4 or 5 years. So.
This question is a bit different. How is CCSF collaborating with Muni and BART to reduce emissions?
Well, basically to get people to use Muni and BART, we're giving them input on the service that they provide the City College. We're giving them suggestions on how to make the service better. We've offered Muni, for instance, space, if they want it, pull-out space on Phelan Avenue on our land, if they want to make dedicated, if they want to change the bus stops to reconfigure them, we'll give them that land. If they want to pull the buses out or not, I mean, it's up to me. So those are kind of the talks that we're having with Muni right now. We really, and about the 4 stoplights as well. We want to improve bus service so that more people can take it so that it's faster. And the same with BART. With BART, it's more about pedestrian access, pedestrian safety, that kind of thing.
There's one other question. This is a little bit different. Keith, did you want to comment on this? There is info on improvement for bikes and electric cars. Where are our improvements for public transit?
We already asked
And
that.
that goes back.
We asked that question.
We had that question already?
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. John, what would you like to speak to before we wind up?
I'll just say that I'm really excited about this bond. It brings together my two great two things I'm most enthusiastic about: the environment and higher education. And we're going to do it, and I think we're going to turn out to be a leader in the state of California on this kind of thing.
And Keith, this will be actually the last of our questions. What do you look at and see that for the future?
Well, I'm always very excited seeing our students going out there and getting jobs. I'm very excited that they're going to be, basically doing change for the world, and I'm excited that they're doing it in San Francisco, because I'm a very proud San Franciscan, and it's going to be really fantastic that we will be leading. We already do, but we can keep on furthering that lead and showing off the rest of the world, how to live in a very sustainable and how to live in a very safe manner.
This is Ann Clark, Chair of the Environment and Natural Resources Member-Led Forum. You are listening to the Commonwealth Club of California. Our program tonight is City College of San Francisco, Engineering, Architecture, Technology, and Environment. It's Keith Mueller, Department Chair Engineering, City College of San Francisco, and John Rizzo, Board of Trustees, City College of San Francisco. This has really been a wonderful program, and I want to thank the audience with the very good questions that you had, and also giving us more information from you about what we're looking at in terms of now and in the future. So first of all, I want to give a big handshake for the audience that we have tonight. And let's have a big thank you and applause for our speakers, Keith Mueller and John Rizzo.